everyone, it's Annabelle. Welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday period. I've had a bit of a break over the holidays, and now I wanted to ease back into videos gently with a fun little intro video to my Neofinetia hybrid collection. So with that said, I'm going to take this little introduction into a few parts. So we're going to break it up into the kind of hybrid types. I've got quite a lot of quite unusual hybrids, or at least I think they are, that I've managed to kind of get mostly as seedlings, and they're now kind of at near flowering or flowering size. So I thought it would be a good point to introduce you to them all and just tell you a little bit about each of them and the things that I found regarding their care. It's miniature Vandaceous types, like the hybrids with Neofinetias, make great orchids for the home, especially if you're tight for space, because the Neofinetia small size introduces a compact nature that works kind of with the Vandaceous type hybrid to give you a compact, free flowering and fragrant usually hybrid that are really nice and easy to take care of, and I really enjoy them, which is why I have got quite a few of them now. So with that said, we're going to start with the good old Neofinetias. I only have a couple of plain Neofinetias. So this is just the standard form Neofinetia falcata. They have quite an interesting growth habit in that they are very predisposed to creating multiple fans. So they are a monopodial orchid, but they will create multiple directions of growth still. So it's a really interesting growth habit, which will result in little bushes of Neofinetias that ultimately can make huge specimens with many flower spikes and create a really impressive display. This one's just a little baby one. I got it as a seedling and it's doing very well. It's in a mixture of pumice and leca in semi-hydro. One thing I would say about these is I did struggle for a little while with them in plain semi-hydro. They did adapt eventually, but they just require that little bit more moisture, I think, than semi-hydro provides in my environment. So combining it with pumice and putting the top layer of non-wicking pebbles to stop the new root tips desiccating really seems to have helped my Neofinetias out. So Neofinetias are traditionally prized for not only their beautiful foliage and flowers, but also their lovely root tips, and you can get varieties that have gorgeous kind of ruby root tips or bright purple root tips. This is just kind of a standard form. They kind of get more expensive the more fancy forms you get, but you can see that it's got a really nice little root ball in there. I have raised it slightly because it was kind of forming a bit of a climbing habit, and I was a little bit worried with this one to start with because it was a seedling that I might accidentally rot it, but it seems absolutely fine. Traditionally they're grown in kokedama, so in Japan they're kind of prized for their root tips and they want to show that off as much as possible, so they grow them in little sphagnum moss balls, which are kind of on a plate or in a kokedama holder. I have tried that before and I think I failed at it miserably. I got the technique wrong. I ended up with a lot of orange rot, which is why I think when I got this seedling I was super cautious and planted it a little bit higher than maybe it should be. But, you know, we learn as we kind of make mistakes with them and grow from them, and I found that this probably isn't necessary to plant it this high in the setup that I have. But in a kokedama kind of format you would probably have it this high so you could see the root tips emerging. And we've got quite a lot of root growth in this one. It was very young and didn't have many leaves or roots when I got it, so I'm quite happy with its progress. And it should grow up to be quite a nice little specimen because it seems very predisposed to producing the multiple fans, even from such a young plant. Whereas one of the other forms I've got is a much kind of slower grower, and that is the more fancy, variegated form of the Neofinetia, the Neofinetia falcata Gojo Fukurin. And this is a really beautiful variegated form. It does seem to be a slightly slower grower, and it did take a little bit longer to adapt, but this is one that I had in straight semi-hydro for a little while. So I think that that did negatively impact it, and I'm only now starting to get kind of good leaf growth. For a while it just wasn't growing any leaves or roots, so it kind of finally seems to be picking up now. I've put a bit of pumice in the mix and kind of changed the setup slightly. It does have roots though, so I'm hoping it'll pick up more now that I've kind of included a slightly more moisture retentive medium. So that is a really beautiful Neofinetia falcata Gojo Fukurin. And that one I believe just has standard form white flowers, but with foliage like this, who needs the flowers? It's just a really, really beautiful foliage plant alone. The variegation on it is absolutely stunning. So now we're going to move on to one of the more common forms of the Neofinetia hybrids, which is the Neofinetia crossed with Rhynchostylis. Specifically, we're going to start off with Neofinetia falcata crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis, which is otherwise known as Neostylis lusneri, although I think now because Neofinetia has been reclassified to Vanda, it would probably be Vandachostylis, if you're, just for the sake of if you're looking it up for names. I think Neofinetias do have quite different care from Vandas, but that's a whole other debate. So we're going to look at the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis first, and I do also have another Rhynchostylis hybrid, which I will bring out at the end. So this is a seedling of Neofinetia falcata koyo crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis. The koyo refers to a purple form of the Neofinetia falcata, so this might give a slightly more purple result in the hybrid. This one's still very young, but it's adapted really well to the setup that it's currently in. You can see by the amount of pebbles that have stuck onto the roots as it's been growing. Got loads of roots down into the media there. And seems to be doing very well. This one's probably still a year or so from being able to flower, but under the right growth conditions it could well flower sooner. Again, it seems to be a really, really easy hybrid to adapt to this kind of inorganic setup. Next, I'll talk to you a little bit about this one, which is actually the first Neofinetia hybrid that I got. So this is Neofinetia falcata Kokakuden crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis Qinghua blue, and I can't find any reference to this Qinghua blue form of the Rhynchostylis celestis anywhere else, so I don't know if that's something that the seller has just made up, or whether it's just one that's not, there aren't many pictures available of for online. Anyway, this one I got from Classen, and the Neofinetia falcata involved in this is a purplish form of the Neofinetia, so it's supposed to produce a more kind of purpley blue form of the Neostylis lusneri, I think. I don't know. The pictures that they had of the flowers looked amazing. I'm not sure if that was the actual flower form though, so we will see when it blooms. It certainly seems to be a very different kind of growth pattern to the other of this hybrid that I have. So I think that the Neofinetia parent in it is a different form of the Neofinetia, and it's been incredibly fussy, and I've taken probably a year to finally find a growing method that actually works for it, and I can now have, I think, 2 roots down into the pot, which is extremely exciting when it's spent like a year being completely rootless. So this one just seems to be a little bit fussier in my environment, but I'm finally getting it established, so that's the main thing. So this is the Neofinetia Kokakuden crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis Qinghua blue, and if you have any information on that Qinghua blue aspect of the Rhynchostylis celestis, please pop a comment down below, because I can't find any reference to that online, so who knows if the seller has just thought of a fancy name off the top of their heads, or if that is an actual variety of the Rhynchostylis celestis, I'm not sure. Next I have another kind of standard lusneri, so Neofinetia falcata crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis, no fancy names involved on the tag at least. This one I actually got as a replacement for the original one, the Kokakuden crossed with Qinghua blue, because that one I was really struggling with, and I thought, right, I'm just going to give this hybrid another try. And I still had the other one as a seedling. So I got this one, and it just absolutely took off. So it's way more vigorous than that other variety form. And the growth pattern is, as if I put them side by side for comparison. So this one is yellowing a leaf, but it's also growing a new leaf. And it's, I've only had this one maybe for the last 6 months or so. And the root growth on it has been really amazing. So I'm really happy with it. It's just obviously, it has lost a leaf while it's been adapting. So if I put them side by side, if you can fit them onto the same frame there, you can really see that this variety is a much more kind of compact grower. than this one, it seems, or this could be just down to culture. It does seem to have a slightly different form compared to this one, but who knows, we'll see as it matures now that it's finally got some roots down into the media. So those are my Neofinetia falcata crossed with Rhynchostylis celestis hybrids, and this is one of my more interesting hybrids, which is Neofinetia crossed with Rhynchostylis retusa. So I got this in a bundle of more unusual Neofinetia hybrids as a seedling bundle from eBay, and they were I wouldn't say they were seedlings straight out the flask, they were young plants, and they've grown quite a bit in my care and kind of established, and we've got a great root system on this one in particular, but on some of the others as well, really put down loads of roots into this media. And I'm really, really excited to see the flowering because I've seen the Rhynchostylis gigantea crossed with Neofinetia, and that one does produce really interesting flowers. Unfortunately, I don't have that one in my collection, purely because the specimens that I've seen have been quite expensive for the size, and it's not that uncommon a hybrid. I think it's called Neostylis pinky or something like that, the gigantea cross. But the retusa cross could be really interesting because the Rhynchostylis retusa produces much longer sprays of flowers, and it also potentially has a slightly different fragrance from the gigantea. I don't actually have a comparison plant because I've had the giganteas in flower a lot, I've had the Neofinetias in flower, but I've never had a Rhynchostylis retusa in flower. I've just got one recently, so I'm really excited to be able to compare the fragrance between this and the Rhynchostylis giganteas, and then how this sort of comes across in this cross with the retusa. I think that'll be really interesting. It's a really vigorous little plant. I think the Rhynchostylis retusa is in general very vigorous, and the Neofinetia is quite an easy grower, it seems. So this one, yeah, it could be a really exciting hybrid, and I'm excited for when I can get it to bloom, which I'm thinking will probably be next year based on the size, but you never know, maybe in summer we might get some blooms from this. So that is the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Rhynchostylis retusa. Next up, we have a category in which I only have two hybrids. So these are the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Phalaenopsis hybrids. I'm going to start off with talking to you about this one, since it's the more obvious choice to discuss. This is the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Phalaenopsis equestris. I'm really excited to be able to see the flowers on this one because it is a more unusual cross, although I think it's potentially becoming a little bit more common. And it's got a really nice, interesting shape. You can see that the leaves are thicker than the standard form Neofinetia falcata in terms of width. They're much wider, chunkier leaves. So the Phalaenopsis is really coming through in that regard, especially on this newest leaf here. We've actually got quite a wide leaf on the newest one to form. And this one I got as a very young plant. It was from Schwerter originally, and it is growing quite rapidly, so I think it is quite a vigorous hybrid. Sometimes you kind of worry that maybe some of these hybrids aren't going to be vigorous, which I have one which is such a painfully slow grower, but this one seems to be a really good combination of traits with this. So the flowers, I can only find one picture online, but they also seem to be a really interesting flower, and what I'm hoping for is that Phalaenopsis equestris is known for creating quite large sprays of flowers, so I'm kind of hoping that it'll increase the flower count of its Neofinetia other parent, but we'll see what this hybrid looks like. So that's the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Phalaenopsis equestris, which is a nice vigorous little hybrid. Next up we have perhaps the tiniest of my seedling collection, which has been a bit of a slow grower, and this is the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Phalaenopsis wilsonii. And again, you can see that this leaf shape takes after the Phalaenopsis parent. This isn't two fans, this is actually two plants. When I first got them, and I got them out of the little moss pot, I realised it was two seedlings that had been put in together, and one of them had obviously been munched by slugs when I got it, but the leaves that it's put out since have been much better. Obviously you can see the leaves that it's put out in my care are smaller than the previous leaves, but I'm hoping that it will start to get some size progression on the leaves now. We've got some roots that have just formed and they have dried a little bit, so I'm considering putting this either back into sphagnum or potentially into a mix with a bit more synthic in, because it seems to require a little bit more humidity around the new roots that are forming than either the Neofinetia or like a standard Phalaenopsis parent would. I don't actually have the Phalaenopsis wilsonii, so this could be a trait of that, but this one seems to be a little bit more fussy, even though the root tips haven't actually touched any of the dry top layer there at all. So I don't think this is an effect of the non-wicking pebbles. I think that this one just needs more humidity while the roots are forming to actually get the roots down into the media. So I'm going to be repotting this again. It's had a few repots, and the actual roots that are down in the media are doing really well. You can see that they're really they're branching and they're going down into the reservoir. And then we've got another one just there. So the roots in the pot are doing really well, but I think it just needs a bit more moisture around the top layer. So I'll be fixing that. That is the Neofinetia falcata cabana form, which is a yellow form. So for these seedlings that I got, they did actually specify the colour form of the Neofinetia parent in them, which is really nice. It was a little seedling haul from Boscal Orchid on eBay, and they were really tiny when I got them, but they were also a really good price for a bundle of 10 seedlings, so I was quite happy with that. So those are my Neofinetia and Phalaenopsis hybrids. Next I'm going to talk to you about my Neofinetia falcata crossed with Ascocentrum hybrids. The one I've got in front of you is the Vanda cherry blossom, or Ascophenetia cherry blossom, whatever classification you want to go by. It's a primary cross between Neofinetia falcata and Ascocentrum amplicium. Now this particular one is the Neofinetia falcata Schuteno form, which is a pink form, crossed with Ascocentrum amplicium orange form. So this should produce, I'm not sure if this is the standard cross for the cherry blossom or whether this is a slightly different colour form, but this should produce quite an interesting colour flower because we've got one pink parent and one orange parent going together to create this. As you can see, we've got 3 spikes currently, and one thing that you might notice on this is how much anthocyanins have come up on this. This was initially under my Gemma LED grow light, not even particularly close to the grow light. We're talking a good sort of 3 foot from the grow light. And I've gradually been moving it further and further away, and it's now right on the edge of my shelf, shaded by lots of other orchids. But the coloration is kind of persisting, and even on the newer leaves that it's put out since it's been moved, I've still got this coloration. Otherwise it seems happy. It's not exhibiting any kind of other symptoms of light stress, and we've not got any chlorosis or damaging of the chlorophyll pigment on the leaves, which would be indicated by the loss of the green pigmentation on the green areas. It's just getting covered in anthocyanin, so I guess we can't see that really. But it's produced 3 flower spikes, it's producing loads and loads of roots at the moment. It's well established as a plant, it's grown really rapidly for me. So I think I'm just kind of going to accept it for now. It just seems to want to be this colour. It could just be the colour form because it's producing potentially pink flowers. So it could be that it's just got a lot of anthocyanins that get produced very rapidly when it is exposed to high light. But it's not even under that high light at the moment, so it's a little bit weird, but otherwise really healthy, and you can see it's producing quite a lot of roots at the moment. The new growth is rapid, we're getting loads of leaves, as you can see, quite a lot of spikes there. I'm excited to see how these 3 spikes will turn out in terms of the coloration of the flowers, and it should be quite a nice little show with all of those spikes. And just as a kind of comparison, I actually have this one's parent, which is the Ascocentrum amplicium. So the Ascocentrum amplicium is this one here, and it's currently producing 2 flower spikes, and this again gets very purple under high light. This one is under my Mars LED grow light, so we can give it a little bit more of a reason to be purple, to be fair. And it's produced 2 spikes under this, and it didn't have many roots when I got it, and it's since put out quite a lot of roots on it. So it's a very vigorous species, and I just kind of wanted to show you, for comparison purposes, it next to its little Neofinetia hybrid baby. Next up we have another Neofinetia hybrid with Ascocentrum, and this is the Ascophenetia or Vanda peaches. So this is a hybrid between Neofinetia falcata and Ascocentrum curvifolium, which is a red Ascocentrum variety, which produces really gorgeous, vivid colours. And the colours have combined in this to produce a hybrid that's, to start off with, produces hot pink flowers, which then kind of fade to a kind of peachy colour, which is really beautiful. I have had this one in bloom, and I'll try and put a picture of that one up on screen. But yeah, it's just super vigorous. So this is one of probably the most vigorous hybrids that just took to straight semi-hydro with absolutely no issues whatsoever. It didn't even flinch at the top layer, and it's just absolutely loves semi-hydro. When I first got it, it did lose a couple of leaves while it was adapting to semi-hydro. And that is quite common when they're kind of trying to redistribute energy to produce more roots. It didn't have that many roots when I first got it, but it can be quite a large hybrid compared to some of the more compact hybrids that we've seen so far. It's got quite unruly leaves, and I've seen specimens where they have kind of multiple fans of this that can get really big, but that just means that they have more potential to put on impressive displays for us. So that is the Ascophanetia peaches. And what I haven't mentioned about this one is the fragrance. I flowered this myself, so I can say firsthand it has the most beautiful fragrance. It reminds me of peaches, and I think that's probably me being influenced by the name, but it's very fruity, nice, sweet smell, but not like sickly sweet. It's just a really kind of beautiful fragrance that I love. So that is the Ascophanetia peaches. Back on to the cherry blossom type hybrids. So this is a hybrid between Neofinetia falcata, and this is the Tamaconga form. So I do have the printout for these in front of me. I'll try and show you the label, but I will put the name up on screen. So it's a colour form that I've not been able to find any information about so far. I'm really not sure what the Tamaconga part of the parentage refers to in the Neofinetia side. It's going to be a colour form of the Neofinetia probably, or potentially a leaf form. Some of them have kind of more bean leaves, and there are some that are more like strap leaves. So I don't know with that. I can't find any reference online. I'll pop it up on screen and let me know if you've heard of the Neofinetia falcata Tamaconga. And this is crossed with Ascocentrum ampullaceum in the red form. So again, I've got a few different hybrids that are technically the same crosses but with different colour forms of the parents. So I'm really excited to kind of see how these crosses actually turn out. And with this one, again, I got it as a seedling, and there were 2 seedlings in the little moss pot that I took it out of, and they've grown really nicely. I didn't get any leaf loss at all when I potted these up. They've got some nice roots down into the media now. So I'm really excited to see what the different colour forms of these crosses kind of look like and how they compare. I've not had one of these crosses in flower yet, but obviously we've got the 3 spikes on that other cherry blossom that I showed first, which is the dark purple colour one. So it'll be really interesting to see when these do eventually flower. These are some of my tiniest ones. They were very tiny seedlings when I got them. So this potentially is a year or 2 from flowering size, but again, you never know. Neofinetias can flower very small because they are miniature kind of plants. So maybe we'll get a flower next year, or maybe even this year towards the end of the year. They tend to be kind of more summer flowering though from my experience, but who knows. I'm not the most experienced with straight Neofinetias. I only have the 2. And I obviously got a lot of these as seedlings, so I can't say for sure when this one will flower, but my other cherry blossom is spiking now, so I'm guessing spring flowering for the cherry blossom, because my other Ascocentrum ampullaceum parent has the 2 spikes now, so I don't know. We're not technically even spring, but in the UK we've had quite a mild winter this year, so I think the plants are a little bit confused. I'm getting a lot of spikes and things in the grow room that I wasn't expecting just yet. So that is the Neofinetia falcata Tamaconga crossed with Ascocentrum ampullaceum red. And if you have any idea what a Tamaconga Neofinetia is, please do let me know. I'd be really interested to hear. Next up we have the Neofinetia falcata Kyobijin, which is a pink form of the Neofinetia, crossed with Renanthera nahica. So this one's a really beautiful hybrid that, as you can see, it's quite a young plant. I won't see this flowering now for probably a couple of years, but the Renanthera across with Neofinetia has produced these beautiful flower shapes that I'm absolutely in love with, and obviously you've got a very compact plant to go with that. I do have a similar cross, which is the next one coming up. This is the Renanthera, which is Neofinetia falcata crossed with Renanthera vietnamensis. This one, as you can see, has a little spike, so we'll get a preview of the flowers to come soon. And this is really beautiful hybrid again, a much more mature plant. I got this one in the Elsner Orchidine haul, and I'm really happy with it. It's been a very vigorous grower, produced loads of roots. And one thing that I will say about the Renanthera Neofinetia hybrids is they have the most beautiful root tips. They're just absolutely stunning. You can kind of see one in there, even little pink root tip. And they're just so beautiful. You can understand why people like Neofinetias for their root tips, and Renantheras tend to have kind of purple root tips because of the flower coloration. They have a lot of anthocyanins usually, so seeing this kind of colour on a root tip is just to die for, isn't it? Isn't it cute? I didn't get this one in time. Usually sometimes you can kind of persuade them into the pot, but I didn't on this one. Anyway, this is a exciting time to have a flower spike, and we'll have to wait a little bit longer on the other little Renanthera hybrid there. But what I'm really interested to see is whether these flowers are fragrant, because obviously Renantheras aren't fragrant usually. So crossing them with fragrant species like the Neofinetia, I think it's really exciting, and the hybridizers are working kind of really well to cross the Renantheras with fragrant species. I would be really interested to see a Renanthera crossed with like a falbellina or something. I don't know if that can be done, but I think crossing with like a fragrant Phalaenopsis, because I know that there are a lot of Renanthera hybrids like the Renanthopsis Mildred Jameson, and there's a couple of other ones like that, but they've been crossed with Phalaenopsis that aren't fragrant. So maybe one day we can have Bellina Renantheras. I don't know if that's possible, but anyway, I'm really excited to see these flowers and see if they're fragrant. So that is the Renanthera, which is Neofinetia crossed with Renanthera vietnamensis. Not much longer to go now, I promise. Just wanted to give a really good introduction to these guys because they're super exciting hybrids in my opinion. This is the Angraecum crossed with Neofinetia falcata. I don't have a variety name for the falcata. I got this one from Schwerter again, and it has since produced a little spike there. So I'm really excited to see the flowers, and I hope it does continue to flowering. This takes most of the form from the Angraecum. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit worried that I've just got a plain old Angraecum, which would still be beautiful, but the Neofinetia cross is what I was really kind of interested in seeing, because I do have the Dideri as well. So the Dideri produces these super bumpy, cute little roots that have a really bumpy velumen, and this trait has been passed on obviously in this cross. So it has the cutest little bumpy roots, and it's a very vigorous one. You can see it's branching from an older root there, and it's producing new roots. Got some new roots starting over here as well. And it just seems to really enjoy quite a lot of moisture, which you can imagine because Angraecums in my environment as well do very well potted in kind of more moisture retentive inorganic mixes. So I'm excited if this one does bloom, although this spike has been very, very slow. Like it started off months ago, it's just a tiny little nub, and it has grown. And it's probably got bigger in the last week, I would say, but still it's painfully slow. Like it's just killing me with suspense. So I'm hoping to see some flowers from this one soon. So that is the Angraecum crossed with Neofinetia falcata. Another really interesting cross that I've got here is the Neofinetia falcata Juchen Wong. I'll pop that up on screen, but I couldn't find this variety when I was looking, so I really don't know what the Juchen Wong refers to with this, but it's crossed with the Papillionanthe Vandarum. As you can see, we've got a really interesting form to this. So it's basically a miniature Papillionanthe, and the most famous of this kind of species crosses is the Papillionanthe Misjoaquim. I'm probably saying that wrong. I don't have that. That is absolutely huge growing cross, and they are generally, I think, terrestrial species, the Papillionanthes. So they really like a lot of moisture, and they've been miniaturized in this cross with the Neofinetia. I think this is also referred to as the pink fairy. It's got a hybrid name. And this one producing loads of roots for me. I'm not sure how young these are or how miniature this hybrid is. Again, I got this seedling and 2 plants in the pot, which is good. Depends how big they grow, but I think that they should stay very compact because of the Neofinetia parent. Again, if you know what that Neofinetia parent is in terms of colour form or leaf form, I'd be interested to hear. But this one has taken off really well in the inorganic kind of semi-hydroponic setup that I've got it in, or them in, the twins. So I'll be really excited to see when that does flower, what it looks like. Next up, I've got another Neofinetia hybrid that has 2 spikes this time, and this is the Neofinetia falcata cabana, which is a yellow form, crossed with Vanda cristata. And I think this is also called Vanda Virgil, and this one has 2 flower spikes, as I said before. I'm just going to bring you in for a little close-up of the flower spikes and the happy sap as well. So I'm really excited to see what these flowers are going to look like. And like I said, I've got a bit of an explosion of spiking and growth in my grow room at the moment, so I don't know if they're just confused because we've had a mild winter. I have kept the grow room heated. As you can see, we've got loads and loads of root branching there and loads of growing tips. It seems to be a very vigorous hybrid, so I would definitely recommend this one if you see it, the Vanda Virgil, or the other, obviously the long name is the Neofinetia crossed with the Vanda cristata. So it has a really interesting flower with a contrasting lip, I believe, that it gets from the cristata. So I'll let you guys know when it flowers what it looks like and whether it's fragrant. Hopefully it should be. It should inherit the fragrance from the Neofinetia parent. So these guys are all really great compact growers that should be great for any kind of home that's limited in space, because they'll stay very compact compared to the Vanda parents that might not necessarily stay compact. Next, we've got the Darwinara Charm Blue Star, which is a relatively compact growing, complex Neofinetia hybrid. So the parent composition of this is Neofinetia falcata crossed with Vandachostylis tam yuan hei, and that results in ultimate parentage being 50% Neofinetia falcata, around 15% Vanda sanderiana. It's got around 12% Rhynchostylis celestis in, around 12% Ascocentrum curvifolia, around 6% Vanda cerealia, and around 3% Vanda luzonica. That's the species breakdown from orchid roots. So as you can see, it's quite a complex hybrid. It's not a straight primary hybrid of Neofinetia. The Darwinara bit I think has now changed. It's called something else. This one took a little while to adapt to my environment. It lost a couple of leaves around the middle, which I was really confused about. It's since put out lots of roots and it's grown these 3 more leaves. So I think ultimately it's okay, but it did confuse me a little bit by dropping those leaves when I first got it, which were the top 2. It made me think that I'd caused some rot issues, or maybe there was some rot in transport, but the crown was not damaged at all and it didn't look like typical rot. So maybe I just stressed it out, I don't know. But it has been a really easy grower since then, and I've got really good root growth in the pot. Maybe it's just a bit sensitive to cold. It wasn't particularly cold when I got these. I got these in last spring, so it wasn't particularly cold. But anyway, it seems to be recovering fine now, and I'm not sure what size these need to get to flower, but I'm hopefully kind of anticipating flowers in the next year or so. We'll see. So that's the Darwinara Charm Blue Star variety. And we are finally coming to the end with quite a special little orchid. This is one that my mum got for me when I was first kind of getting into them, the more compact kind of Neofinetia hybrids. And my mum bought me one from Thailand. And I think it got very damaged in transport. It was not happy when I got it, and it had no roots. it was really, really sweet of her to get me, and it's the Neofinetia falcata crossed with Aerides flabellata, and it produces beautiful, beautiful little flowers. I'll put the alternative name up on screen because it is a registered hybrid, and it dropped a few leaves when I got it, and it had no roots. It had taken ages to recover, but it persisted in trying to put out new leaves instead of roots, so they were just kind of getting smaller and smaller. And we finally have, I think, 2 good roots in the pot. You can see one there, and there's another good one, which is the best root, here. So it's finally got some roots, and it's, again, persisting in trying to put out some new leaves, but that's fine. Hopefully they'll get bigger now it has roots. It's a really tough little cookie, and it's obviously a fighter, and it's extra special obviously because my mum got it for me and thought to get it for me when I was first kind of getting into orchids. So I've put it through some tough times, but hopefully it's on the recovery sort of side now, and I'm hoping 2020 might be our year for getting it to fully recover and getting maybe some flowers out of it. Maybe it'll need till next year, but you never know. So that kind of rounds up my Neofinetia collection, or Neofinetia hybrid collection, should I say. I know it's been a long video, and I'm sorry, I hope it's not been too boring. I wanted to start off with kind of a fun intro video to these guys, and then we can watch as they progress through the year. Obviously we've got spikes on quite a few of them as well, which is really why I wanted to update now, and then we can look at the spikes when they flower. My videos might be a little bit fewer and far between in places this year. I'm going to try and maintain a schedule of 1 to 2 videos a week, and this is the final year of my PhD. Finally, so things might get a bit intense, might have periods where I'm not posting as much. Things are already pretty intense. I'm really relieved to be heading into the home straight and hopefully moving on with the last stage of my PhD project. Thanks so much for watching today, and thank you for watching all of my videos last year and your support throughout while my channel's been growing. You guys have been incredibly supportive and welcoming to kind of a new YouTuber, and I hope to kind of keep making videos that interest you in the new year. I did a poll last year on what kind of videos you guys wanted to see in terms of updates, so I'll be working ahead with those. I've also ordered some new orchids, and we're going to be doing some projects with some kind of more outdoor terrestrial hardy orchids, which I'm super excited about, and I will just keep trying to give you guys new and interesting content that updates as things are going along and just kind of documents and records each stage of conversion or recovery or whatever we're doing. I'll try and provide kind of evidence-based results really, and we can learn from them. That's kind of what I wanted to do with this channel, and I think everyone's been super, super supportive with that. So I thank you guys for sticking with me and all your suggestions and your help, and for continuing to watch my videos. And I will see you guys later. On that note, if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to like, or if you haven't subscribed to my channel, consider it. It would be great if you did, no pressure. And thanks so much for watching today, and I wish you all the best in 2020. Bye!